Now let's look at accessory organs to the skin. So for example, hair is an accessory organ. We have hair pretty much all over our body except for the palms of our hands and the soles of our feet. A hair provides all kinds of functions like protection or sensory input. It helps regulate our temperature, and we can use it to communicate even. For example, if your hair turns white, that communicates something about your age. We cut and comb the shaft of the hair. The shaft of the hair is the part that sticks out from the skin. You'll notice the erector pili muscle. That's what makes the hair stand up on end. You'll notice that most of the hair is in the dermal layer. You have the root of the hair at the bottom. You have the follicle, which is between the follicle and the root. That's what's producing new hairs. A sebaceous gland, that's producing oil. Here are some major parts to the hair. Again, notice carefully that it's these cells that are making up these tissues. And if you look carefully at these cells, you can see a lot of things about the cells, like what kind of cells, they are. You'll see that it's the melanocytes that are going to be pigmenting the cells. You'll see the adipose tissue that's below the root of the hair there. You'll see there's epithelial tissue, and you can even, if you look carefully, you can even see what kind of epithelial tissue. Cuboidal, it's in layers, stratified cuboidal epithelium make up these hair parts. There's several stages to hair growth. The anagen stage is where there's lots of cell division. It's what's making the hair grow. The catagen stage is this transition stage. And then you have the telogen stage where you start to get no new hair growth, like there's no more growth anymore, and then your hair falls out. That's the exogen stage. Well, why is hair different? Well, part of it has to do with the melanocytes and the type of proteins that they're producing. That's going to produce pigments like black, or no pigment, which would be white, or if there's little pigment, which is blonde. But then you have the shape of the follicle is different. So if you look at the hair follicles, they have very different shapes, which give it texture, whether it's curly or straight, for example. What about fingernails? So these are some of the major parts of the fingernail. You have the nail body and the free edge, which sticks out over your finger. You have the nail root where it's growing. So all those make up the nail. The cuticle is going to be this little bit of skin that's growing on top of the fingernail. And then you have the lunula, which looks like the little half moon underneath of the fingernail. But fingernails kind of protect the sensitive tips of your fingers. And they definitely make it easy to manipulate things. You can pick up small objects and manipulate things because you have fingernails. There are two major types of sweat glands. Eccrine sweat glands, which you can find all over the body, but you have a lot of eccrine sweat glands on the soles and your palms. So whenever you are feeling like you're watching a movie where someone's cliff hanging, your palms might get sweaty. Those are eccrine sweat glands. Apocrine sweat glands are typically armpits and groin, your axillary area and your groin area. We do a lot of waste removal through our apocrine sweat glands, which is why it stinks, like why they're like the smellier of the sweat glands. Or if you're a nervous, cold sweat, well, they're rooted in the hypodermis, so it's going to be a little bit of a different kind of a sweat, much different kind of consistency in that sweat. So sebaceous glands are oil glands. So you have oil glands all over your skin, and they produce oil. They also help to oil your hair. What they do is allow your skin to be pliable or flexible. They also allow your hair to be flexible or pliable. In other words, movable. So they help to make it more manipulatable. There might be some disorders that you recognize on skin. Like the worst of these is cancer. And we see here 3 different examples of cancer. There's a basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and melanoma. All right, basal cell carcinoma, what you're looking for is this folded edge. It has this kind of rolled border to it. Whereas squamous cells are going to be flaky. So that carcinoma looks very flaky. Whereas melanoma, that's the letter C. Melanoma is a problem with the melanin, and that's where we have these A, B, C, Ds to recognize melanoma. A has to do with asymmetry. B has to do with a jagged border, like the border is irregular. It's not just rounded. It's got ridges and jags to it. C has to do with the color, like there's two tones, darker areas and lighter areas. And D has to do with the diameter, over 1/4 of an inch. Makes it something to really be concerned about. The problem with melanoma is that it's so deep, it's going down into the hypodermis layer where it can be metastasized. It can move through the large blood vessels in that area. Acne is another skin disorder where the sebaceous glands clog. This is not a clog from the outside by like dirt, or it's not bothered. It's not a clog from the outside by things like dirt, and it's not bothered by things like the amount of greasy foods you eat. But the problem is that the sebaceous gland is producing oil. The oil clogs up in the duct, and then it turns black and maybe gets infected, and we get a whitehead that way. Eczema is an allergic reaction where you have these itchy patches, and you scratch those itchy patches, and it causes the skin to flake and redden and feel terrible. Burns is another disorder, a problem with skin where we burn it. And we can easily categorize burns based on the layers of the skin that's impacted. So first-degree burns are red. They only impact the epidermis. Second-degree burn characterized by blistering, and you see problems with the epidermis and the dermis. A third-degree burn goes all the way through the skin. Epidermis, dermis, hypodermis. Interestingly, the third-degree burns are most dangerous, but they're not very painful. And the reason is all your nerve endings are burnt away. Second-degree burns are extremely painful, but not quite as dangerous as a third-degree burn. We can quickly estimate how much of a person has been burned by the rule of 9. So you can see here an example, like each arm is 9% of the human body. Your upper chest is worth 9% of your skin. Your back is 9% of your skin. Your lumbar area, 9%. Your abdominal area, 9%. The front of a leg, 9%. Altogether, you're going to see 9%. So that's 11 times 9, 99%. Your groin area is going to be worth 1%. So if a person burns their entire arm, like front and back, that means 9% of their body's burned. If they've burned their entire arm and then their entire leg, their leg is 18%, plus the arm is 9%, 27 total percent. It's a quick, easy way for EMT and emergency medical personnel to estimate how much of your skin is burnt. And that's all for this video.